Hi everyone, welcome to the Murder Tapes podcast. I'm your host Annalisa, and this is our very first episode, so thank you so much for tuning in. I did want to do just a little introduction before we get started, just so you guys can get to know me a little bit better. So, as I mentioned, my name is Annalisa. I was born and raised in Houston, Texas, and I'm a forensic student at the University of Texas at Austin. I'm also an AD-PI and ambassador for the Texas Exes program, and I currently work at a clinical pathology lab as a lab assistant here in Austin, Texas. I'll definitely share more about myself in other episodes, but for now, let's just get into our first case. Before we get started, I'd like to mention that this podcast contains explicit content that may not be suitable for some listeners. Please be advised. Today, we're going to discuss the murders of the Bever family, also known as the Broken Arrow murders. On July 22, 2015, at 709 Magnolia Court, Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, 5 members of the Bever family were murdered in cold blood. The perpetrators were 2 brothers in the Bever family, 18-year-old Robert Bever and 16-year-old Michael Bever. They stabbed both of their parents, their younger sister, and 2 brothers to death and severely wounded another sister who fortunately survived. There was one other sister found upstairs unharmed who was 2 years old at the time. The 2 survivors, Crystal Bever was 13 and Autumn Bever was 2. Photos of the 2 brothers and other evidence will be linked in the show notes for educational purposes. The day before the murders, both brothers collected a variety of knives and body armor. They also ordered guns that were to be delivered to a local gun shop, but they were never picked up due to the 21-year-old pickup policy. Instead, they switched the pickup order to be delivered to their house on July 23rd, and there were over 2,000 rounds of ammunition in this order. On the night of the murders, all of the Bever family was sleeping, except for the 2 perpetrators along with Crystal Bever and April Bever. According to the surviving sister, Crystal Bever, at 11:30 p.m., their mom asked her to tell her brothers to do the dishes. When she approached their bedroom, they were putting body armor on. She could also see knives laid out on their beds. This wasn't the first time she had seen them with body armor or their knife collection on, as they frequently used these items. Michael then asked Robert if they should, quote, do it right now, to which Robert replied yes. Soon after this, Michael asked his sister to go look at his computer because he wanted to show her something. Upon doing so, Robert approached her from behind and slit her throat. Robert later testified that the original plan was to kill her quickly and hide her body in the closet, but she fought back after repeatedly being stabbed. Her stab wounds were so severe that her internal organs were sticking out of her abdomen. She also had multiple defense wounds. She then began to scream and ran towards the front door. She recalled being able to hear her mother scream also during this frantic approach to run. She made it outside but was soon dragged back into the house. In court, she mentioned that she wasn't sure who dragged her back inside, as she can't remember. The next victim was their mom, April. After hearing Crystal screaming, she ran upstairs and was met with her 2 sons. She too fought back but was stabbed 48 times, and these wounds were to her face, chest, neck, arms, and abdomen. She unfortunately did not survive. Robert immediately wanted to go after his other siblings and asked Michael where the other ones were. Michael replied that they were hiding. The 7-year-old brother Christopher and 5-year-old sister Victoria were hiding in the family bathroom that they had locked themselves in after hearing the attacks. Michael tried to convince his siblings that he too was a victim by knocking on the door and saying, quote, "Let me in, he's gonna kill me." After the children unlocked the door, they were unfortunately stabbed to death also. Christopher was stabbed 21 times in his neck, back, chest, face, and head. Victoria was stabbed 23 times in her neck, face, chest, back, and abdomen. They too had defensive wounds. Michael then approached his dad's office where 12-year-old Daniel had locked himself into. He was able to call 911 and talk to dispatchers. He then used the same method by telling him Robert was also trying to kill him, which led Daniel to open the door. When Daniel opened the door, Michael told Robert, "He's all yours," which can be heard on the phone call. He then grabbed the phone and smashed it on the floor. Daniel pleaded with him and they ignored him. Robert then stabbed him 21 times. He had stab wounds on his stomach, back, neck, head, and chest. I'm going to include the audio of the 911 call, but before I do, I just want to warn you that it is very hard to listen to. I have a little brother, and when I researched this case, I cried for many nights after hearing this audio. I cannot imagine the pain and heartbreak this poor family had to endure.
Broken Arrow 911. Broken Arrow 911. Hello?
Hello.
Hi, where are you at?
Broken Arrow, Oklahoma 7411.
What address?
709 Magnolia Court.
Okay. Are you the only one there?
No, my brother's attacking my family.
Your dad is attacking your family?
No, my brother. He has a knife in his Oh, millions of people now.
Okay, who's attacking your family?
What?
Who's attacking your family?
Yes.
Who is it? Do they?
I'll call them.
Are you there?
Hello?
Hi, what's going on there? What's going on there? Hello? Hello?
Their father was the very last victim. The father left his room and was stabbed 28 times. He had wounds to his abdomen, chest, neck, and back. After the killing spree, the two brothers ran behind their family home to a creek in order to hide. When police arrived, they found the 2-year-old unharmed survivor Autumn upstairs. It's important to note that in court, Robert admitted that they did plan on killing her by chopping off her head, but forgot about her during the spree. It is a miracle that she was sleeping and didn't cry. The two brothers were soon found by police and their dogs. A police dog actually bit Michael in an attempt to catch him. Once he was caught, they could see he was covered in a mixture of dirt and blood. The blood was confirmed to be from his mother. The two brothers testified that their father was both physically and verbally abusive, and the surviving sister testified that while their father was emotionally abusive, he never physically or mentally abused them. It was known by neighbors that the kids were homeschooled and didn't interact with their neighbors. In fact, the neighbors found out the full names of the children after the case came out. Crystal also later testified that she heard Robert often complain that he felt that there were too many people in the world, and that her brothers wanted to rise to fame for being serial killers. Their goal was to outdo the Columbine High School massacre that occurred in 1999. She stated that she tried to tell her parents months before the attack that Michael confessed to her that they were planning on killing the family. They even asked if she was interested in joining, to which her mother replied, "They're just being boys." I couldn't find out which brother confessed to this, but it was also stated that they also wanted to film videos with their family members' bodies before dismembering them and keeping them in the family attic. There were video surveillance cameras, computer equipment, and a singular flash drive taken from the scene. Both Robert and Michael Bever were arrested and charged with 5 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of aggravated assault and battery with a deadly weapon. They both pleaded not guilty on August 3, 2015. However, at the next hearing on February 23, 2016, Robert pleaded guilty on all charges against him. He was then sentenced to life without parole, along with an extra life sentence for the other assault and battery charge. I think it's important to note that this plea was definitely not because he had a change of heart or because he felt bad about what he did. He was trying to avoid the death penalty. While serving his sentence, he got tattoos on both hands. One hand said life without parole times 5, or 5 counts, and the other hand says 5 in capital letters. Michael, on the other hand, never changed his plea and continued to state that he was not guilty, leading the court to try him as an adult. During this process, he kept a journal that had violent drawings, including death and racist remarks. Michael was eventually found guilty on all counts and received 5 consecutive life sentences, an additional 28 years for the assault with a deadly weapon charge, and once 85% of the time is served, he would also have the possibility of parole. Michael is currently at the Lexington Correctional Center, and Robert is at the Joseph Harp Correctional Center. Around 2017, the family home randomly caught fire suspiciously, and the neighbors began raising money in order to turn the property into a memorial. There was enough money raised, and the house was torn down. Luckily, both surviving sisters were adopted by the same family. This whole case is so heartbreaking. I'd like to quickly highlight the courage that Daniel had for being able to pick up a phone and call 911 in order to help his family. If he didn't do this, maybe the family never would have gotten justice, especially if the 2 younger sisters didn't survive to tell the story. Aside from that, that is the end of this case, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for listening to the first episode of the podcast. Feel free to email me cases you'd like covered. You can also find us on Instagram at Murder Tapes Podcast, or my personal Instagram at Annalisa if you're interested. Thank you so much for listening.